because I hadn't done what I was supposed to do, because because I delayed and didn't do what I was supposed to do, and when I got there it was too late. You know those people who don't do what they're supposed to do, who woke up late and then stopped to get something to eat on their way to the train station and then act like they're surprised when the train is gone when they get there. There are some of us that act like we're confused about why we haven't arrived at our place of destiny, but there are some of us that haven't done what we are supposed to do to get there. Don't look to your left or your right, but there are a few people here that know that God has something greater for them, that God has something in store for them, but they refuse to prepare properly. They refuse to leave the place of bondage. They've refused to go forward after the vision. But see, that wasn't my case. That wasn't. And there's somebody that can identify with the feeling that I had when you find yourself in a position where your journey has been interrupted and you find yourself in for something that you didn't sign up for. When you've done everything that you could do to get where you're trying to get, and you find out that things are out of your control, and I get to flipping out. I don't know about y'all, but I get to flipping out. Don't ask me no questions. Brother came up asking for change. Sir, I ain't got no change. Don't ask me for no change. Don't come up to me with no small talk. I don't want, how's the weather? I don't know. How is it in D.C.? That's where I'm trying to get. It was frustrating, and to me the most frustrating thing about being on a journey is the process that it takes to get there. I mean, once you're there, it's all gravy. I mean, it's all wonderful, but no matter where you're trying to go, whether you're traveling by plane, train, or automobile, there's a certain level of aggravation and irritation that comes up when things are denied when you're trying to get somewhere. Sometimes the journey can be so taxing that you wonder, are we going to get there? Are we going to arrive? When will we get there? Have you ever wanted to get somewhere so badly, but all along the way you're faced with opposition, distraction, and delays? I mean, every time you turn around, there's something that's causing an intermission in your program, where God has promised me something, just as he's promised you something, and I know you're anxious to arrive at it, but I want to encourage you today to know that there is victory in the journey. Look at your neighbor and just tell him there's victory in the journey. See, sadly, we live in a society where everybody's in rush mode, and there's a lot of busyness, but there's not a lot of progress. There's a lot of activity, but there's not a lot of fruit being produced. There's a whole lot of people doing a whole lot of things. Everybody's in a hurry to get somewhere, but ain't nobody going nowhere. I was in awe at what I saw on the streets of New York City this weekend. Everybody hustling and bustling and pushing past you and blowing their horns and driving like they're crazy, and ain't nobody going nowhere. We are aware of God's divine order, but we've confused the favor of God with the American dream. This is the now generation where we're hustling and bustling and rushing and overindulging and overworking and overbooking and overspending. It's become our way of life, and patience is a rare commodity. God's plan for us is greater than getting enough money for a new car or a new house. Just look at somebody and say, God's promise for you is bigger than that. We have it twisted, and see, we're confused because we think that somebody is blessed when we see no evidence of struggle in their lives. That's when we think somebody's blessed. When we see somebody that's arrived and it doesn't look like they had to do anything to get there, and that becomes the kind of blessing that we start chasing after. We want that kind of blessing, that kind of free blessing, that kind of blessing that you don't have to work for, that doesn't take any process, the kind of blessing that you just wake up the next morning and it's there, the kind of blessing that makes you play the lottery every day of the week, that kind of blessing. But the real victory is in the journey. The real blessing is how you're strengthened in your struggle. The real victory is how you receive a breakthrough in the middle of your breakdown. There's somebody here that's not ashamed to testify that I've had to go through some stuff to get where I am right now. You ought to turn to your neighbor or to your left or your right and just tell them there's a story behind my praise. I've had to go through some stuff, and my journey has built my testimony. Is there anybody that's got a testimony about where the Lord has brought you from, and you found out that you got stronger because of what you had to go through? See, external pressure builds internal strength. There are some things that you didn't even know you were capable of doing until you got in a position where you were under some pressure. I need somebody to testify in here that realizes that opposition, when you oppose me, it brings out my strength. I'll give you a good illustration. When you're working out with a trainer, if you have a good trainer, if you have a good one, as you're working out, if you really want to get stronger, the trainer will gradually increase the weight that you're lifting. And as you get stronger, the trainer doesn't make it lighter. The trainer makes it heavier, because the trainer is aware that the more resistance that you face, the more opposition that you face, the stronger you're going to become. And the weight that he puts on you, to be honest, sometimes it's a weight that you really can't handle. It's a weight that seems like it's too much for you. And there are some times when your trainer won't even tell you what you're lifting, because if you knew what it was, your mind would tell you that it's too much for you. But I've noticed one thing, that no matter how heavy the weight is that my trainer has me lifting, as long as he's standing right there beside me, I'm able to push through it. Look at your neighbor and tell him, even though it feels heavy right now, God is right there beside you. So all you've got to do is push through it. I don't hear you telling nobody. Tell him God is building your strength. And I know it seems like too much for you, but when it feels like it's too much to bear, just remember that presence that's standing over you and push through it. See, the wilderness is by divine design. See, life is full of moments where you anticipate getting somewhere, but you find yourself in limbo, or where you're not in the bondage that you used to be in, but you still haven't yet arrived at the promise where God has said you're going to be. And the children of Israel, in our text, they spent 40 years in the wilderness before they got to the promised land. Now that's a long journey. Look at somebody saying, now that's a long journey. This is what I call the hurry up and wait syndrome, where you hurry up and you got to hurry up and escape from the place of bondage based on the glimpse that God has given you of what he has for you in your future. But once you're out of that place of bondage, you begin to wonder if you ever should have left. Or y'all scared to testify. You're going to be too sanctified in here today. But there are some folks that have had to leave some situations. You've had to leave some relationships. You've had to leave some job because of what God promised you he was going to do in the future. And once you left that place, you found yourself in a position where you wondered if you did the right thing. The children of Israel had escaped Pharaoh and his army, but yet they had still not reached the place of promise. Can you just turn to your neighbor right now and just tell them, there are some things that I know God is going to do in my life, but I ain't seen them yet. Come on, look at somebody and say, there are some things that I know God has promised me in my life, but I haven't experienced them yet. I thank God I'm not where I used to be, but I've still not arrived. See, in our text, the children of Israel, they've been going through it, y'all. since they escaped from Egypt. They had been delivered from bondage and promised a place of abundance, but they had to go through some stuff to get to that place of promise. See, we put emphasis on the arrival, but God puts emphasis on the journey. He puts emphasis on the process. I want you to know that